Okay, welcome to today's council meeting, Thursday, October 20th, 2022. Roll call, please. Present. Absent.
Present.
Please rise for the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. So we have is it on the presentation for the housing element?
Yes.
Is it on?
Yes.
We've got right here.
So.
Good evening, City Council members and Planning Commissioners. My name is Eusebio Ortega, and I'm a Technical Assistance Program Manager with the California Coalition for Rural Housing. Pleasure to be here with all of you today. I'll be presenting today on behalf of the team of consultants working on the multi-jurisdictional housing element update for Fresno County. Next slide, please. So here we have the agenda for today's presentations. During today's meeting, we'll go over introductions as well as an overview of the housing element update process, as well as an overview of the regional housing needs allocation process, also known as RENA for short. And lastly, some important changes that are important to keep in mind for this cycle of the housing element update. Next slide, please. So here on this slide, we have the project team listed that's working on the housing element update for Fresno County. On the first part of the slide, we have Christine Kai, Deputy Director of the Fresno Council of Governments, who will be facilitating the meetings with the participating jurisdictions. Then we have a consultant team led by Jennifer Gaslam of Placeworks, who is the project director leading the consultant team. And then we have Sarah Allender, who is the assigned project manager for the city of Parlier. And in addition to the consultant team, we have myself and the CCRH team, who is working on the public outreach segment of the housing element update. Next slide. So now I'll be going over the objective of today's meeting. Over the next slides, I'll provide an overview of the housing element update process, and I'll also be sharing info about the schedule and the regional docs that are being prepared. This evening's discussion is also an opportunity for both City Council and Planning Commissioner members to ask questions about the process and provide their initial input on potential housing issues and opportunities here in Parlier. Next slide, please. So now we can go ahead and start with an overview of the housing element. Next slide. Oh, sorry, Bertha. So with that said, first off, what is the housing element? So the housing element is actually one of the 8 mandated plans of the general plan and must be updated once every 8 years. So as you can see here, the previous cycle which was the 5th cycle, consisted of December of 2015 all the way through December of 2023. This new cycle now will be from December of 2023 all the way through December of 2031. And lastly, the housing element is the plan for accommodating the jurisdiction's fair share of the regional housing needs allocation, also known as RENA, and we'll be diving more into as to what that means as we cover the presentation further along. Next slide, please. So about the housing element. Per state housing law, the housing element must plan for housing needs of all economic segments of the community. Housing elements must also provide adequate zoning to meet the housing needs of the community. And housing elements must also include goals and policies to ensure that each jurisdiction provides adequate housing support for the entire community, including special needs households such as farm workers, very large families, people with disabilities, seniors, etc. The housing element does not, however, require the city or county to build the units. It does not require them to provide funding to build the units. And it does not require the city to approve specific residential developments or projects. So in other words, the way I like to describe the housing element is that it helps each city understand how many housing units they need to be able to accommodate in order to meet the community/population needs here in Parlier. Next slide, please. So now I'll be going over what's included in the housing element. The housing element is broken into sections, one being a regional section and one being a local section. In this slide here, we have the regional section and what's included in that part of the housing element. First, we have the introduction, which actually covers the purpose and scope of the housing element. Then there's the countywide background report, which includes an analysis of the potential market and existing future housing needs here in Parlier. Then there's the countywide analysis of fair housing, which includes a regional approach to addressing fair housing issues here in Parlier. Then there's the countywide housing goals and policy section, which includes the regional goals and policies that are going to help meet the diverse housing needs here in Parlier. And lastly, we have the summary of sites inventory, which includes a summary of the land and resources that are available to address the housing needs here in Parlier. Next slide, please. So now, as you can see here, we have the local section, which includes more city-specific information. The first section includes the local housing needs assessment, which is an analysis of the at-risk units in each jurisdiction. And then we have the local fair housing assessment, which looks to address specific fair housing issues in each community. Then there's the local sites inventory and analysis of resources, which describes the sites that are available to meet the RENA allocation for Parlier. Then the fifth section consists of the local implementations programs, which includes details on what implementation programs will be completed to ensure that the housing goals for the region are addressed. And lastly, we have the evaluation of the previous housing element, which describes the progress that was made from the previous housing element update. Next slide, please. So here we have the flow of the housing element update process. As you can see here on this slide, we have the project timeline, which was developed with the end goal of adoption hearings being held by December 2023. In order to meet that deadline, Fresno County started its outreach efforts in July of 2022 all the way through October, which we are close to wrapping up this month. And then after the outreach is completed, we'll be preparing an admin draft of the housing element, which is expected to be completed by January of the new year. And then after that, we'll be preparing a public review draft, which is completed in February of 2023 and is reviewed for about 30 to 40 days. And then after that, we complete a second round of outreach, which is anticipated to be completed in February and March of next year. And after that second round of outreach, we go ahead and submit it to the Housing and Community Development Department for California, known as HCD, for their first review, and that typically takes around 90 days. And then after that, HCD returns the housing element with its findings, and we provide our input, and that gets resubmitted to HCD for a second review, and that's typically completed around September of next year. And with the end goal of adoption hearings being held by December of next year. Next slide, please. So now we'll be going over the regional housing needs allocation process, also known as RENA for short. Next slide, please. So in this slide, we'll be covering as to how RENA is determined. The RENA process starts at the state level with the state projecting the overall future housing needs and allocates the units to the councils of government statewide. The council of governments are then responsible for each region developing a methodology to make sure that we distribute the overall housing need among all cities and counties within the region. And then that's when the Fresno COG steps in and is responsible for distributing 58,298 units throughout the region, which is the RENA allocation that was calculated by the state. Then that's when the local cities and counties step in and are then allocated their units and are responsible for accommodating those units at appropriate densities. Next slide, please. So here on this slide, we have listed the RENA breakdown for Parlier. As you can see here, the current allocation for Parlier is 733 units, which makes up 1% of the region's RENA allocation. The jurisdictions with the highest RENA allocation include the city of Fresno and Clovis. With that said, like I mentioned earlier, the city is responsible for making sure that 733 units are accommodated. So they're responsible for laying the groundwork to make sure that that they have enough land available to make sure that they can accommodate this many units. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned earlier, it's important to know that the city isn't responsible for entirely completing all 733 units. However, the city must demonstrate that it can accommodate the units for each income category throughout the 8-year planning period, and this is accomplished through zoning. We assume that the higher the density, the more affordable the housing will be. So we need higher density zone sites in order to provide housing that is affordable to lower income households. Per state law, the default density for lower income households for the city of Parlier is 20 units per acre. Next slide, please. So now in this slide, I'll be covering some strategies that can help meet the requirements of the 6th cycle RENA allocation. As you can see on this slide, it's important to start with the sites from the 5th cycle element and then focus on to larger sites and smaller sites that are smaller than 10 acres. After that, it's good to look at vacant and underutilized sites in the city that can be used for the housing element update. And it's also important to look at projected ADU units. I know this is still a fairly new concept, but it's something that can be considered for this cycle of the housing element update. And lastly, it's important to consider projects and specific plans that are down the pipeline that can help address the housing needs for this cycle. Next slide, please. So next, I'd like to briefly discuss some changes to state law that have been enacted between the last cycle and this cycle of the housing element update. I understand that this group has already been briefed on some of these changes, so I'm going to go through them quickly and try to stay high level in the interest of time. Next slide, please. So one of the new laws is AB 215, which includes some updates to the housing element timeline. Essentially, what AB 215 did is that it updated the housing element timeline to set a 30-day public review period for the first draft of the housing element, and also extended HCD's review periods from 60 days up to 90 days. This change does increase the amount of times that it takes to finalize a draft of the housing element. However, please note that this change is already reflected in the project schedule that I shared a few slides earlier. Next slide, please. So next, I'd like to cover AB 1398, which actually requires local governments that fail to adopt a legally compliant housing element within 120 days of the deadline to complete a rezone program within 1 year instead of the 3-year requirement that is currently listed on the slide. Next slide, please. Furthermore, we have AB 72. Through AB 72, HCD may revoke housing element compliance for failure to complete the housing element rezone obligation. HCD may also report to the Attorney General violations of net loss law, as well as the Housing Accountability Act, Density Bonus Law, and Fair Housing Law. Whereas AB 1397 made changes to the sites that jurisdictions can use in their sites inventory. Generally, it prevents sites that are considered too small or too large for the development of lower income housing. Next slide, please. So here we have 2 more laws that were recently enacted. We have SB 166, which actually made changes to net loss regulations. If a project is approved on a housing element sites with fewer units or at a different income category, the jurisdiction must make a finding that adequate sites are available to meet the RENA allocation, or they must identify additional sites to meet the need within 180 days. As for SB 35, it actually set up an application streamlining requirement based on each jurisdiction's progress in meeting their share of the RENA. The SB 35 streamlining requirements apply if the number of building permits issued is less than the share of the RENA by income category for the reporting period. Next slide, please. So here we have SB 330, which is another streamlining bill that actually helps remove some roadblocks to the development of new housing by prohibiting downzoning and reducing application processing time. It also requires design standards to be objective and not subjective. As for AB 686, it actually resulted in significant changes to Cycle 6 requirements. AB 686 actually requires that there be more robust outreach and analysis of fair housing issues. It also requires jurisdictions to identify sites that foster an inclusive community and address barriers to fair housing, and it requires programs to address other fair housing barriers. Next slide, please. And lastly, here we have one of the more recent new laws is SB 9. SB 9 requires ministerial approval of up to 2 units per single family lot and or an urban lot split for parcels in an urbanized area. So in other words, SB 9 helps facilitate the creation of up to 4 housing units in a lot area typically used for one single family home. This new opportunity for single family lots may actually assist jurisdictions in their approach to meeting their share of the moderate or above moderate income RENA allocation. Next slide, please. All right, well, with that said, thank you everyone for their time. That concludes my presentations. I'm now available to help answer any questions that you may have. If you can skip to the next slide, Bertha, there's also more information if you visit the Fresno Multi-Jurisdictional Housing Element website. On there you can find, I believe the first draft will be uploaded pretty soon. And there you can find more details as to what's going on with the housing element update. Yeah, with that said, is there any questions that I can help answer?
Maybe if you can just explain how we got to, with the housing element, because I know it's something that the COG hired.
Yeah.
And this is coming from the state because of the housing crisis. Can you please go into a little bit more detail of how that came about?
Yeah, as to how the housing element, like why it's required? Yeah, sure thing. Yeah, so a lot of the housing element typically is kind of like a guide for the city to understand how many housing units they need to be able to accommodate. So for example, if let's say a developer like KB Home said, hey, we want to build 1 million units in Parlier. Well, what the city is required to do in that situation is to make sure that can accommodate the RENA allocation, which is 733 units. So if a developer comes in and says, we want to build 1 million units, the city is responsible for only making sure that 733 units of those million are accommodated in the city. So essentially, it's to make sure that there's enough, that the city lays the groundwork to make sure that they can accommodate any new type of housing developments here in the community.
Any questions?
Any other questions?
Yes. Go.
You talked about the single dwellings that you can put 2 per lot.
Yes.
And yeah, you said you can put 4 per lot.
Up to 4.
They're not, they can't hear you on
Yeah, well,
from there.
how, it's because he's going to answer that question. So just go ahead.
So, wouldn't that reduce down more of the yard size for each unit? You're going to go 4.
Yeah, so
Obviously 2, but you said we can put 1 million lots right there. And again, you can't put 1 million lots because you're going to start to reduce the acreage and also reduce the yard size, even
Yeah.
the back size.
yeah.
So, are we taking advantage of the people there?
Yeah, so the example that I used earlier was just an example that I just came up with. But
I think that question was more for Jeff. Can you answer that question for him, please?
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Mayor. So the specific reference was to one of the components of Senate Bill 9 that took effect January 1st of this year. It's not a matter, well, to put it mildly, the state doesn't care about yards. It's a mandatory law that was put in place, and we are required to allow people to build. No, they can't just build 4 houses in any configuration they want to on a lot. If they meet certain requirements, they can basically have 2 standard dwellings, 1 accessory dwelling unit, which generally will be smaller, and then 1 junior accessory dwelling unit, which has to be within the walls of one of the primary dwellings. So you can get 4, and technically we're allowed, we can impose a 4-foot side and rear setback. So yes, your point is valid in that, yes, there will be less yard space, everything will be closer together, but the provisions of SB 9 are mandatory. Every city in the state is compelled to approve these developments if they meet the statutory requirements. So it's not a matter of it being under local control anymore. It was just put in place by the legislature and the governor that we have a housing crisis. And among other things, this was one of the concepts that came out of the 2021 legislative cycle to try and encourage local jurisdictions to make more housing available in a wider variety of affordability ranges.
So if we're gonna reduce down the yardage, shouldn't there be a park in order for the kids to play? I mean, because you're reducing down their yardage.
We don't have we can plan for parks. We can't require somebody to do anything about it when they come in with a proposal to construct housing in accordance with Senate Bill 9. They can do a certain kind of a lot split that allows them to take 1 single-family lot and divide it into 2 without regard to what the city's minimum lot sizes are or setbacks or anything like that. And then on each of those resulting lots, they could theoretically get 4 units in those specified combinations. We are barred under SB 9 by requiring any kind of dedications or any kind of improvements when they do those lot splits.
Thank you. I think we need to move on. We're going off topic. Now we're going into parks. This is basically just a housing element that is something that the state is requiring all cities to do. If not, then the cities can get fined for not complying with with these new changes for the high housing crisis that we're facing. This is something that's out of everybody's city. Every city cannot control that anymore. This is at the state level now, and they are the ones that are actually dictating what we are forced to do, in other words. So it's like, they don't really, not to say they don't care, but they are caring more about having homes for people to live in because of the homelessness as well. So this is one of the ways that they're trying to fix this problem by making sure that there's more housing available for people that can afford it, because right now a lot of people cannot afford these homes that are coming in. So that's why this was created, the housing element. It's something that the COG was also part of this process, that had to hire a contractor, consultant, to be able to provide the workshops and information for the community to understand what these changes are. So,
I just wanna make a different additive.
just go ahead.
Have you talked to the school districts and asked them, guess what, we're gonna impound more of the students?
Again, I'm sorry to interrupt, Mr. Banuelos, but that has nothing, that would be something that you can address with the legislators, because we just know that this is something that the state has required the cities to do. If not, we would face what Selma was facing. They were going to be fined because they don't have homes, and there's actually limited space too. So they were facing a lot of a critical situation where they were going to be fined on a daily basis. So this is something that's coming at the state level. If you want to ask those questions about the school, that city has no jurisdiction on making any of these changes because it's a bill that was approved by the legislators. So if you have those questions, you can address that to any of our senators or assembly that can actually address that. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm happy to leave my business card with Jeff to help answer any questions you may have.
I just want to find out what is that the deficit that we got in houses in Parlier up to today. What is the deficit?
How much is the need of homes that we need, which is the 733 homes that are
That's
required
the calculation that the state came up with.
1 million homes
That was an example.
That was an example. Yeah, that was pretend example. That wasn't actually a real thing.
And that's what he was saying, 733 homes are required based on what is the need here for Parlier. Not all the cities are going to have the same, number.
And it's 733 over, what is it, 6 years, 5 years?
Over
8
the
years.
next-
Mhm.
8
Yeah,
years.
so-
So 733 over 8 years.
I got those numbers when I had a million. We're like, wow.
Yes.
Are the setbacks gonna change?
They changed already as of January this year.
It's 20 feet on one side, 15
No more.
on the
No.
other.
So
Or-
we need to differentiate. If somebody applies for a specific kind of housing project under Senate Bill 9, that's where the city doesn't get to impose its normal development regulations. If somebody comes in with a regular single-family lot and wants to put a regular single-family dwelling on it, then we still impose the regular R1 zoning standards.
That's what I'm saying, if you have.
Yes.
Put a second dwelling,
If somebody wants to put a second dwelling on it, then we can impose a minimum of a 4-foot rear and side setback.
probably more from the street to the.
There's no change to the front setback based on any of the mandatory statute stuff. That's all still under, the front setback aspect is still under local control.
10 and- I think it's 10 and 15.
Currently,
I live on a corner, so it's.
oh, yeah, you have
And I
a
got-
wider setback on the corner, yeah.
Any other questions for the housing element? No? Okay, well, thank you for the presentation.
Thank you, everyone.
And are we scheduled for another, because I know we already had a workshop, right, recently?
We've
Are we-
we've done pretty good.
I know, is
Yeah.
there another one scheduled soon? Because I think this is important for like the people that do have all these questions.
Yeah,
They can ask questions at the workshop.
Yeah, I believe Fresno County might be holding a separate virtual workshop for those that weren't able to attend the in-person workshops. So once I get some more information as to when the virtual workshop is being held, I'll make sure to share that with the city staff here.
I think we even have it on Zoom, right?
Yeah, I think we recorded it on Facebook Live, so recording should be
Yeah.
on there as well.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you so much. Have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. So now we have, for Market Development Manager, I'm sorry, I cannot pronounce your name. I'm so sorry. New Zhong? Okay. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Beltran, City Council members, city planners, chief, and community members. My name is Nujong Linalu. I work for Wellbe Health Sequoia PACE in Fresno. PACE is PACE, and it stands for Program of All-Inclusive Care for the Elderly. We are a government-funded healthcare program for those who are 55 and or older with Medi-Cal. And if they don't have Medi-Cal, we could assist them in applying for Medi-Cal. The goal of our program is to help this population manage their health care so that way they stay healthy and continue to live independently at home. And we do this by care coordinating all their appointments, providing them free transportation for them to all their medical appointments. We pay for all their medications and we deliver to their home. So there's no more going to the pharmacy, no more waiting in line, and no more copays if they were making copays. Our program covers preventative dental, vision, and hearing. So for example, regular Medi-Cal is very limited on dental. Dental, they get 2 cleanings and 1 exam a year. If they have a cavity, it's going to cost them $360 to $420 per tooth. That's 1 tooth. If they have a crown or a root canal that they need done, it's going to cost out of pocket $1,500 to $3,000 per tooth. Again, it's 1 tooth. And if you go to the one that charges $1,500, it's kind of shady. So you have to be kind of careful, right? But when they enroll into our program, it's medically needed. We cover it for free. Vision, regular Medi-Cal covers the exam, but not the glasses. And glasses are very expensive. And it could range anywhere from $100 to, upwards of hundreds of dollars. I had a gentleman his sweat melts the frame. So he had to have titanium frames. Very expensive. Well, when he enrolled into our program, we covered that for him. Hearing aid and dentures, regular Medi-Cal covers a new set every 5 years. So what happens in the years in between? Well, if you break it, you lose it, you have to pay to replace it. For many, they go without it because they can't afford it. So they go without hearing and they go without teeth. When they enroll into our program, we cover that free for them. Batteries for hearing aid are very expensive too, and we cover those. We cover all durable equipment. So if they need hospital beds, they need Depends, they need, bed liners, wipes, we cover all of that for them. They need assisted living in the future, we cover that. They need skilled nursing homes, we cover that. For many that do not have family and they are alone, we even bury them, okay? Yes. But our program, we cover occupational therapy and physical therapy, unlimited. And what I mean by that is because on one hand, we are an insurance like Calviva, HealthNet, Blue Cross Blue Shields. On another hand, we are a provider like Kaiser. So we're 2 in 1. So when our therapists or physicians make a recommendation, we don't need to wait for Medi-Cal to approve. And then after that, we don't need to wait to get into the doctor's or the physician's calendar. Okay, we are a provider, so we make that determination in-house. Our interdisciplinary team members approves it, then we see them immediately. Not only that, but we have a beautiful 26,000 square foot building in downtown Fresno, the banner that's right behind me. It looks like a beautiful hotel that when you go, you just want to go relax in the lobby area. Well, that's what it looks like, okay? When you come in, we pick you up, you come in, we feed you a continental breakfast, and then a hot catered lunch. And we don't serve you like a cafeteria where you take your tray and you go get your food and you come and sit down. We serve you restaurant style. So you're sitting at the table, which is a picture way on the upper hand corner here. And then our staff is bringing your food and refilling your drinks. So we're really pampering you. Inside there, we have a hair salon and a nail salon. Now, for us, it's all about preventative. So we don't color your hair, we don't perm your hair, but we'll wash your hair because we've got a professional sink in there that will tilt your head back. We'll wash your hair, and then we'll trim your hair. If time permits, we may even style your hair for you. And then your nails. We don't do acrylics, we don't paint, but we'll give you a manicure and pedicure to keep your nails healthy. If you're a diabetic, we send you to a podiatrist, okay? And then we have a walking tub for many of the elderly that don't have tubs at home, or it's hard for them to climb over their tub with fear of falling. Well, when they come to our center, they can take a bath in the walking tub or the shower. And for many of our participants that don't have washers and dryers at home, when they come to the center, they can bring their basket of dirty clothes, and our staff will wash it free for them, okay? We don't wash blankets, we don't wash pillows, but we'll wash the clothes for them. And everybody that is enrolled into our program, we issue them an iPad. Well, we call it a grandpad. It comes internet ready, so they could access us 24/7, 365 days a year. Even when there are holidays, we have staff that are working that they can access. And then it comes with games, unlimited games. And they could even call family and friends and it's free to some countries. I believe it's free to Mexico. So they can call down there. And so this is, we make this accessible to those that don't have phones so they can reach us. Those that need telehealth, we can do that. Or they don't have a phone, they want to call their family and friends, they can do that. And all of this is free with Medi-Cal. And if they have a share of costs, Medi-Cal, they will have share of costs. And unlike, like for example, I'm with Kaiser, I have a $3,000 deductible that I have to pay, but that's one for the year. With Medi-Cal, if they have a share of costs with, let's say $1,000, that's $1,000 every month. Okay, they have to pay that off before their Medi-Cal will kick in, okay? What happens is that when they decide to, if they do decide to enroll into our program, our benefits division will review 3 months of the bank statements and to see if we could waive that for them. And then I've gotten about 4 or 5 participants that I've enrolled where it's waived. And it really is helpful to them. So they do this, and then we pay that portion for them for Medi-Cal. And then the Medi-Cal will kick in, and then that's how we get paid. But I think the most important thing, what differentiates us from a regular family doctor, is that they have the family doctor, but they're missing out on all of these benefits. And their health is managed by a team of 11, from the medical director to the physician that is assigned to them, to the center director, to the occupational therapist, physical therapist, social worker, to the registered dietitian, to the engagement coordinator who manages our center here, to the staff that works on the floor, even to the transportation driver. And you may wonder, what does a transportation driver have to do with this team? Well, when they pick you up one week to the next, they get to know you. Last week, so-and-so wasn't limping, but this week, he is limping. Well, we have morning briefings every morning, and that's brought to the attention of the team. We bring the person in, we assess, and we treat. And then for those that have allergies, well, the dietitian is very aware of this, and we notate it, so we serve them appropriately. And if they don't have enough food at home, when they meet with the registered dietitian, you know what they can do? They can request for food delivery. And we deliver mom's meals every other week. It's not to replace all of their food, but it is to complement what they have at home. So it comes cooked, they just need to warm it up. I don't know why anybody is not enrolling in such a program. Programs such as this, especially with the wraparound care, are companies in New York City and San Francisco that pay for their executive, staff members to have transportation to their appointments, where somebody's managing their care. They don't have to think about it. Just, okay, your appointment's this day, I'm going to pick you up to go to your appointment. But the government is making this available. And the reason why this program came about was it started in San Francisco about 50 years ago in the Chinatown community, because they had language barrier, culture barrier, and they were having all of these specialties come to see them, and activities, and watching their diet. And they were very healthy. And they're like, what's going on? Why are they not ended up in the emergency room in the hospital? And so they're like, and then so they did a study, and they're like, why are we not deploying this program to the rest of America? And that's how this program came about. So our company, we have 5 centers: LA, Long Beach, Stockton, Modesto, Fresno. We're opening up 2 new ones, Rosemead and North Hollywood. Fresno is growing so fast that we're looking at a 2nd center in Fresno. Okay. And then if that fills up, we're looking at a 3rd center, because there's such a need in the Central Valley. And so I wanted to come and share our program with all of you. And I was really happy to meet City Manager Sonia. She stopped by and we started chatting, and we're really excited. She goes, I'm going to have you come and talk. And I said, I would love to. And then I met Cynthia's husband, and he ran back and told Cynthia. And then Cynthia came to me, and I said, okay, well, because I was here for Dr. Joaquin Arambala's event. And then I ran over to the senior center, and then I spoke briefly to them. And now about 15, including Cynthia, are coming to, we have an open house bingo on November 19th from 11 to 3. And our transportation is going to come and pick them up, bring them to Fresno. We're going to serve them lunch. They play bingo, and then we're going to give them a tour to see if that's something that they would be interested in. And so I wanted to share that with all of you, that it really takes a village to really take care of this senior population, because for many of them, they have family, but the family are so busy with their families. They don't have time to help their parents manage their care. And that there's a lot that don't have any family or friends, and they're really alone. So, I brought some stuff. I'm going to leave for City Manager Hall, and she will pass it to you, but I have brochures in there. My business card are in there. I would love to hear from you. I would love for all of you to come and do a tour, and then that way you could really see what we have to offer, because this didn't happen overnight. It was the vision of 3 doctors that they came about, and they said, you know what, we really want to give this care to this population, and we want to give them first-class care. And so all the wood beams that's built in here is built by the company. The building itself was a standalone building already, but they went in there and just fixed it to make sure that when they came to the center, they're coming to a place that they feel like, I'm gonna go and be pampered and relax and not have to worry about life or stress, and that's the goal of this program. Yes, yes. And so, thank you so much for your time. And if you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer.
I have a question for you. That's exciting about the senior citizens. She's a very good person and she loves her seniors. I mean, wow. I've gone on a little trip with them, and she really, really loves them.
Yeah.
But my question is this going to be covered also by Medicare or just Medi-Cal?
So, those that have Medicare, there is a huge share of costs. So Medi-Cal is the one that will cover all of it. Okay. There are some that have Medicare, but if their income meets a certain threshold, I could help them apply for Medi-Cal. And again, if they have a share of costs, our benefits division will look at 3 months of their bank statements, evaluate it, see how much we could waive, we will cover. And if they cover, let's say, a couple of $100, it's worth it. It's worth it because
It's worth giving it a try and see what they qualify for.
yes, exactly.
Another question. Would they look into putting a lien at a home if that person owns their house and they have Medicare, say, for example,
Great question.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So up until July of this year, Medi-Cal was very limited in terms of threshold and who could qualify for Medi-Cal. If you're a single person, I think the amount was $17,500, and the maximum amount asset that you can have was $2,000 in the bank. If you're a couple, it was $23,500, and the maximum asset was $3,000. So now listen to this. Come July of this year, Medi-Cal changed its guideline and said, okay, if you're a single person, your income, because it's still financial base, if you make $18,000, around $500, around that figure, don't quote me exact amount, okay? But as a single person, you can have up to $135,000 worth in asset. Okay, $2,000 to $135,000 now. If you are a couple, you can have up to $195,000 in asset now. Asset could include cars, money in the bank. It could include, a property of some sort, all right? And so then now it allows more people to qualify. However, your question is, if your house is worth more than $195,000, what happens? Well, if you don't have a plan in place, probate wants it, right? So to help with that, what the majority have done is create a trust, an irrevocable trust, and then you put this property into this trust, because what that means is that you're not going to touch it, because something happens to you, it's going to go to your loved ones. Okay. So then when you do this, Medi-Cal doesn't touch it. And then you don't have this property, and then there's no lien on it, and then you qualify for Medi-Cal, as long as you meet the 135 asset or 195 asset for a couple. Does that answer your question?
So yes, thank you. So do you guys help with that, putting that property in the trust to get them?
So unfortunately,
qualifying?
we don't,
Okay.
but we can guide you to who,
Okay.
refer you to who you can contact to get that done.
Okay.
But I will help with the applying for the Medi-Cal component of it. Yeah.
You guys can't name me in your trust.
Sometimes those trusts are like $3,000 or something like that.
So if you go to a lawyer, it could be anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000. Okay. There are a lot of paralegals who have worked decades for lawyers and that they know how to draw it up. So what I suggest is that people pay a small fee to go to a lawyer, learn what they want, what they need, and then go to a paralegal and get it done. And then that document will cost anywhere from $500 to $700. But that's up to them. Yeah. Yeah. Yes.
What's the difference between, I do understand it's like kind of like a one-stop shop, it's really fantastic, but do you guys deal with does your company deal with in-home services? Do they deal with, let's say, in-home therapy? Because I do understand that they'll pick you up and take you over. But yet you got the older seniors, they're saying, you know, I don't want to go anywhere, I'm afraid, whatever's happening right
Yeah.
now. Do you do that?
Thank you so much for asking that question. Definitely. We provide this wraparound care, okay? And the one thing that I forgot to mention earlier is that right now, your family doctor, if you end up in the hospital, some family doctors will call the hospital if they know, right? But for the majority of them, they don't call the hospital to find out what's going on with my patient, you know, what kind of prognosis, you know, does she or she have? You know, what kind of medications. We have a list of medications that our participants are on, right? So we are notified, and then physicians call the hospital to find out what's going on. The day that the patient is discharged and goes home, and if he or she cannot come to see their physician at our center, you know what? Our physician make home calls. Okay, they will go to the home. Okay, and if they cannot, if they cannot come to the clinic to get their physical therapy done or their occupational therapy done, the therapist will travel to their home and do that. We provide caregivers. So if they don't have a caregiver, well, we can provide that. The caregivers will go do light house cooking, cleaning, medicine management, bathe them if they need it. Okay, all of this is provided, again, free when they enroll with Medi-Cal.
But it's free, but there's stipulations, am I correct? Is there movement as far as their body, the movement, let's say, of care that you would limit on the hours, am I correct?
So it's just like anything. It has to be assessed to see what they need. Okay. We all know that IHSS is being heavily abused. Many of these seniors that have their family or friends taking care of them are really not taking care of them. I'm not saying this for everybody. I'm just saying we've been hearing about this. Okay. It's abuse. For us, we're highly regulated. Okay. We're highly regulated. And so our nurses go out and make an assessment. They're in communications with the physicians, you know, what does this person have? And when they go out to make their assessment, is what does this person need? Could this person take care of himself or herself? If not, they take all of that into consideration before they come up with a number of hours that the caregivers are given to go and take care of the individuals.
Alrighty then, thank you very much for your presentation. So you say you have flyers here you can
Yes.
share with the rest?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, okay?
Thank
Thank you.
so much.
Exciting, huh?
Javier? Thank you. Oh, look, she has that. That's awesome. Hmm?
Good evening. So today I just wanted to talk about two things that we're working on right now, without making too much of a projects update, but just on the two most important ones, which is our water leaks and water services project, and also our downtown facade, which is phase 2 of our downtown project. Go ahead and go to the next slide. So we've been actually recently fixing a lot of our water services, completely replacing them instead of just fixing leaks. And so I wanted to kind of break it down here. It's a water service is anything that ties in from our water main that run all the way across the city. Anything that ties in and then goes to a meter to service like a resident essentially that's receiving water from our water main. And so it starts with the saddle, corporation stop. Our service water service line, it's usually a 1 inch. and then it goes to our angle meter stop. So that's essentially another shutoff valve at the water meter. And then it goes to the water meter, the transmitter, and the water meter box. So that's kind of like the overall layout, and then I'll break it down to like more zoomed in versions to kind of explain it better. But go ahead, next slide. So what happens when we get a leak? The first thing we do is we open up the street because we have to turn off the water service at the water main at the corporation stop. So we cut it and then start excavating. Go ahead, go to the next slide. Just within this last year, I've been working with Public Works, and we started using our Vector truck. So we actually use water pressure to excavate and find where the leak is in the road and try to patch it up that way. So you can see him using the high water pressure there on the left-hand side and using the Vector truck to pick it all up. It's essentially just vacuuming it all up. Go ahead, go to the next slide. So obviously sometimes they get messy, so I want to put this picture there, but that's one of our Public Works supervisors, Andy, on the right-hand side. And once we have everything excavated, go ahead to the next slide.
Always have the hose on the right side of the pit. So
yeah, this is
when
part
you're
of
going, it's not wanting to twist
a
to
training
the left.
session that we had when we first started replacing our water services this way. So we had Ditch Witch send somebody out here to help us with one of our mole devices, which it'll come up here soon. Go ahead to the next. And this is what a transmitter looks like. This is one part of it. This is the part that goes on the meter. Essentially, it's either directly on the meter or it has a wire from the meter to the higher spot on top of the water meter box. So there's two types kind of transmitters we work with, but this sends the signal to our handheld that we get essentially our water readings from. Okay, go ahead to the next slide. So this is one we did recently. So here you can see the blue line. That's our 12-inch water main. And unfortunately, once we dug down to it, we found that there's a gas line right next to it, hence why we now use water pressure to excavate. And before last year, we were using excavators and shovels. So it's kind of a good thing that we decided to point that out there. So what you see directly attached to the blue line, the blue water main, is the saddle. And then right next to the saddle is the corporation stop. So that corporation stop is what we have to dig, excavate, and find to turn it off on the city side. If the resident's meter was manipulated or was damaged to where we couldn't turn it off at the meter anymore. So that corporation stop, we just call it either corp stop or water main shut-off valve. And then you can see the black water service there going to the resident. Go ahead, go to the next slide. So right here is another kind of example of the same corporation stop, but the 12-inch water main is buried. You can't really see it in the picture, but it's buried, and then the saddle's also buried. So the only thing you can see here is another type of corporation stop. And you can see there's like a little vertical latch there that we just turn and close it on the street side. And then you see the water service going to the resident. Go ahead, go to the next slide. And then once it gets to the resident's property line, it hits our water meter. So right here, you're seeing two different water meters. You see the transmitter wire going up to usually at the water meter box. You see the water meters. Obviously, everyone knows what those look like. And then you see the angle meter stop. So this is the shut-off valve. When somebody's not paying their bill or whatever it may be, that is where we go and close it, and we put a lock on it. And so oftentimes the lock is either broken, or if that eyelet is damaged and we can't lock it anymore, then that's when we have to go into the road, excavate it, and do the whole other process that I showed you beforehand. And so go ahead, go to the next slide. And then can you play or? So this is what we're doing now with our new mold. The Public Works guys have been doing a good job of replacing all our water lines. You can see it coming into the dirt. And so instead of digging up the whole road, when you put in the new service line, we got them a mold that just essentially digs trenchless without having to excavate, and digs it from one side of the road to the other. and then what it does is it pulls the new water service with it, and then you pull it out of the water meter so you have a brand new service. So they're a little excited because this is actually one of the first times it was done here in Parlier, so they're pretty excited about it. Anyways, you go to the next slide. You can go get it. There you go. So that was the water services. Any questions about those? It's pretty straightforward.
Updating us on that project that you're replacing old meters and for the new ones now. That's good.
Yeah, so we only have 4 guys, but we're one by one, until we get them all. But yeah.
And I think Ali had mentioned that we were looking into possibly having the whole entire city done, but that would require like a contractor because that's not a 4-guy project. So right now, that's what they're doing for now. These temporary, well, not temporary, but these
the worst ones.
The worst ones, case scenarios, and then eventually, once we find for the funding and the cost, and then Ellie and Javier will look into the actual replacing all of them because they're already old. They're from back in 2010, I believe. Some of these meters, and so we want to replace them before they start falling apart and then causing more problems.
So right now, actually, what you're doing is targeting the ones that are leaking, right? As you go.
The ones that are leaking and the ones that have known leaks on them. So we've gone back there twice, sometimes 3 times to fix a patch, and we're saying no more patches. We're replacing them. Yeah.
And that's because it's due for replacement because, like I said, it's from 2010, right?
Yeah.
They're old ones.
Yeah.
So, and I think you'll be probably giving us an update for that.
Yeah.
Once it's.
Yeah. So the larger project is replacing all the meters and upgrading our system to a more technology advanced.
And that probably won't be this year. Will be next year sometime. Yeah. So just to answer your question.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Batteries are going bad, so their lifetime is getting there.
Yeah.
So you're saying, I'm looking at your meters here, so you're replacing the whole meter with a valve, it's a ball valve that closes on the inside, the little lever that closes the water. So the new meter's gonna have a new valve on there, that comes with the shut-off valve?
Yeah. So it just depends because, it's kind of situational depending on the condition it's in. Right now, from Public Works, we're just only treating the worst conditions. So, but if in the future we do want to replace the entire thing, all together with the meter, box, everything.
Javier, the last time we were looking at that video for that one, there's one new meter that it's more modern, of course, from the ones that we put in, where it's all there's a lot of them that are digital now, and it's all in the computer. It's on where you can see if there's once you connect. That's what I was it was very interesting to see where once they connected the actual meter, it showed on. It's like working, and then it could tell you if there's any problems. It's like really advanced, more than what we have now. So that's why that project will cost us a little bit more, but it won't be until next year, right?
Yeah, we're working on that application. Actually, Javier and I are working on putting that application together to do the entire city with new meters.
Kind of like the project how it happened the first time around for the meter project that we had back in 2010. So now that we're out, we should be eligible to apply for the same kind of grant because it's been more than 10 years.
Yeah, 12 years.
Yeah. By the time we actually get the application done and go through the process, we should be eligible for the new meters by then.
Yeah.
All right.
The laterals are being replaced.
Yeah.
The laterals are being replaced.
Yep.
Any idea when we're going to start the program on getting rid of PCP?
It's already started.
It's already started.
Yeah.
Yes. Did you see the big vessels out there? The big vessels are out on Milton. Actually, can you tell them where all the vessels are located?
Yeah, they're in 3
The main one
locations.
is Milton, though.
Yeah, Milton has 24 vessels, treatment vessels out there right now, and we're still delivering a few more parts for them. And also, we have more vessels over there at the industrial park.
Yeah.
So if you drive over there, we have another 12.
We did the groundbreaking not that long ago.
But you'll see you could see them at the Milton lift station. You know what that's at, right? They're huge.
Can you go on the project that we were talking now?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Okay.
It was gonna go on the water into 3-4 units and it was gonna come clean back. That's what they did. They put some units only and all the water goes there and then it's sent back to the community. It's right on Main Street, but as long as we get rid of these.
Yeah, we're gonna get clean water, so that as long as we get the clean water, that's all that matters. Okay, can you continue, please?
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
So the next one I was going to bring up just lightly is the phase 2 for downtown. As you know, phase 1 is actually pretty close to being complete. We're finalizing right now just a few more details that need to be hammered out, but it's pretty majorly complete. So now we're planning the phase 2, which is the architectural. We didn't want to build them both at the same time because you imagine the chaos with road closures and stores being bothered and, store owners. Yeah, no, it's going to be a year now. That's going to be our promise. So that's actually what I was going to talk about today. So now we're starting major work with the architectural phase, which is phase 2. And then phase 3 will be the sidewalk on the next block over, which would be next year. So yeah, go ahead, next slide. So originally, this was the layout that we had, some ideas, conceptual ideas, which would look more of a Western theme. We presented it many times, and people commented on it. But I just wanted to show this because this is where the ideas started with. And then go ahead, next slide. And so we presented graphical kind of 3D models, which is the initial part of the design, which is great to do all this during, while the other part is being built. So we're not too much in the way. This is all graphical. And then go to the next slide. So now we're looking at major structural improvements. So you're not going to see facade improvements right away. We first need to, fix these parapet walls that are falling. You can see like that wall is not being braced to the brick behind it. You can't just slap something nice in front of it and be done. We definitely want to. I'm sure you guys want to make sure we do it right. So we're in the middle of doing the structural component of it. So we're climbing roofs, we're pulling, roofing out, we're checking how it's anchored, and we're working with structural engineers to come up with a plan so that it's structurally safe. And then we can come on and do the face of it and do all the nice things that you could actually see. So you can see here, for example, like the parapet, it's splitting from the building below it. You can see it directly lined that's happened there. Go ahead, go to the next slide. And then like on this one, for example, it's kind of a blurry picture, but you can see here this parapet. That parapet is just a wall above the roof. And it just needs more structural integrity. It's hard to see because it's blurry, but those are bricks that are already falling off. And then behind it, it's being held by 2x4s essentially that are rotting. So those are the things that we're going to focus on first. And I just wanted to show you guys a visual of that because you're not going to see it, but it's going to be in the background. And we are working on it. And now that the contractors have cleared out, we can mobilize more contractors and keep working on the facade. I think that's it. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, Javier, for the update. We now can move on to, I believe it's public comments. Anybody from the, go ahead. Yeah.
What happened is that on the previous meeting, for whatever reason, the printer did not print these 2 sheets. And nobody did have these 2 sheets. One related to the.
I'm sorry, what was that?
To the permit or to the lady.
I didn't hear the question. What was the question?
No, what I'm saying is it's going to be a quick, just telling you my issues on this. I never got these 2 together.
Is it a public records request?
they came, no, I'm gonna make an explanation on this too.
On what? I don't
He
understand the question.
printed out a copy, and Sabrina, it happened to yours too. Remember when I printed it out? It didn't print the last 2 pages. The same thing happened to his copy, but it was on the agenda on the website.
It was
yeah.
part of the agenda, but it did not came with the agenda that I was given until the end of the meeting. You know, no, I know that. I'm not
Okay.
complaining about that.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is that and I'm gonna try to convince you to review what you guys decided related to that really apostolic church. The fiscal impact, it says that it will be very little fiscal impact to the city, only whatever the discount is. And I want to remind you that it is illegal for us to get money to church. You know,
What church?
what you're saying here is you're giving the permission to the really apostolic church to provide community service.
She's
and blah,
paying
blah,
for it.
blah.
She's paying for it. So
I'm
there's-
sorry?
She's paying for it. So is this from the last meeting?
Yeah, it's not what it says here that she's paying for it. It says that we're gonna give her
Paying
a
for it.
discount.
She was well, she's still paying for it. Whether it's a discount, we do
You're giving a
discounts.
discount, it means that
give
we're giving
discounts
money
even to
away,
our-
Mayor.
Let me just say this.
Well,
We-
let me finish and then you can tell me. Lo que estoy diciendo es de que, lo voy a decir en español, lo que estoy diciendo es de que de un modo o de otro vamos a estar subsidiando a esta iglesia, que puede ser cualquier iglesia. El impacto fiscal que vamos a tener quizás sea $30, $40, $50, still it does represent a donation to the church. Okay? That's
Right.
one. The other one is related to the use of the park. I was talking to Antonio, and probably you guys did this. You guys never did, I never saw that you guys had rented the park to have your activities
Anybody can rent the
on
park.
Friday.
Yeah, they can.
You know, so that's illegal to do activities, political activities, and any city
Okay.
sites.
Thank you
so-
very much.
Yeah,
All
you
right.
know, but probably you guys did pay.
Okay.
I don't know. I just want to bring those things.
If you want to ask for a public records request, you can ask that tomorrow. She can provide you
I'm
whatever.
not going to get
information.
anything, so, you know, I
Well,
already
you
know.
never come by.
This is only.
You don't
Mayor,
ask for it here, and you don't.
This is only for your attention,
I get it.
okay?
That's what I'm saying.
And
is-
then if I feel that I need to get
So
more
you-
records,
I-
I will come.
Okay.
But I'm going to ask Neil to tell you that actually it is illegal.
That you don't want us to have a movie night for the community. I understand. Okay. Thank you.
Not a community, don't
It-
change it.
yes, it
I'm
is.
saying that it is illegal for you to use public places to do your campaigning. I don't know if you're
So
using
movie
Sony.
night is
Still, a movie night, whatever it is, it's campaigning. I don't know if Sony is working with you full
Okay.
time. I don't know if Ev is working with you full time. You know, so I'm just bringing that to your attention. So.
yeah, and they're just assumptions. Okay, thank you very much.
Just for your information, Mayor, it's just not that, it's not that simple or cut and dry. Depends on a lot of circumstances.
Yes, thank you very much. Go ahead, I'm sorry, Neil.
It's just not that simple and cut and dry. It would depend on the precise circumstances, which I don't frankly know about, so I can't tell you whether it's illegal or legal or.
It was a movie night for the community that I sponsored, and that's what he's complaining about.
It was a campaign. You admitted to Diego that it was.
I paid for it, and nobody was campaigning. If you watch the video, you would see that nobody was campaigning. It was all just a movie night for the residents. Thank you for your opinion, Mr. Gomez. Thank you for your opinion. Thank you for your opinion, but everything was paid for.
You're basically saying you can't make a stump speech out in a public park? I think that's incorrect.
Well, there was a debate in Selma and in the park, so I don't understand how that's even relevant. And we also had a debate. We had a debate here in 2018.
And you're entitled to be in a public place. If you're saying that one cannot go out and make a stump speech. which is
Neil,
campaign,
let me just,
out in a public place.
Neil.
I think you're wrong about that.
yes, Neil, let me just say this. Dolores Huerta Foundation did one here in 2018 at the community center, a debate. Yes, it was here. We have the document. So if you want to see that too, that's available for you as well. So if Dolores Huerta Foundation is allowed to do that, why am I not allowed to provide a movie night for the community? So, and that's not campaigning. A debate is campaigning, my dear. I'm so sorry that you don't understand that, but a debate is part of, the problem is that you don't like that I did it. That's just the problem. Yes, it is, because you didn't have a problem when you were there in 2018 with the Dolores Huerta Foundation that Joaquin Arambula sponsored as well in 2018 for the campaign. It was a debate. Fernando was there. He was there, and it was there. They paid for that venue to be used for campaign purposes. So it wasn't a problem then, right? Because it was not me. But because it's me, it's a problem. And that's fine. You're entitled to your opinion. That's okay. And you bring it to Dolores Huerta's attention as well. They obviously used the venue too, so I guess, and you were aware of it as well. You were here. So I don't understand how it wasn't a problem then, but thank you. We can move on. Thank you. I think you had a question.
Good evening. My name is Fernando Banuelos. I reside in 560 8th Street. Just had a couple of questions. I thought that the project is fantastic for downtown. It looks great, kind of like the old Western style building, which I thought was really nice. I wonder who picked that out. Had a good taste on that. My question to you, to the council is, number one is on the funding. How is that project going to be funded? Number two, has it been, again, an environmental impact as you take down the bricks and you take down the older motor? Is it going to have, what they call when the old paint comes off? Asbestos. Again, because that's going to be, drawn into the public. The other one is, has there been a meeting with the downtown businesses? Because as I've been talking to the businesses downtown, is they're saying, well, we haven't had a meeting yet. So has there been a meeting and asked the downtown, are they all in agreement, with to have the facial to be changed? Because that's their own private buildings. So those are my three questions I'm asking. Have you guys had a meeting with downtown? Because I talked to them. They haven't.
May I answer that?
Sure.
Yes. We did actually. There's a story that was on the, I think, Channel 30, right? I did the story about downtown that goes over the funding, which you can watch it on Channel 30. It talks about American Rescue Funds that was approved to work on downtown, and also as far as the building property owners, they have agreements that were signed by some of the property owners that were there. And Sonia can elaborate more on to what was discussed with them if you like.
Sure.
Yes, I have met with several of the property owners, and they've actually signed a form individually and picked out what they want on their buildings. So I've met with several of the property owners.
So what would be
Some
basically?
I haven't met with, but I've been meeting with them and given them the opportunity to choose what colors they want, how they want their building to look, and
it's a two-phase project. So not everybody on Parlier Street, because it's two phases. We can't do. There's one that I don't know up to where. What's the location? Is it I Street?
Mm-hmm. So there may be some that I haven't met with, and it's because we're not doing that phase yet.
Mm-hmm.
But the first phase, it's starting with the J Street, the corner of J Street and Parlier. That building will be the first building that we start with, and we're doing one building at a time.
Yeah.
Okay.
So-
It's not going to be fast. I mean, we have to
Yeah.
first
can't.
work on the structural issues,
Uh-huh.
and then
And honestly, I don't know who you're talking to because I've had conversations with them as well, and they're very excited. I have not heard anybody make it a negative. Who's going to be upset with the city fixing their structure?
I didn't say
gonna,
that.
That's going to actually increase the value of their property.
I didn't say that.
So, I'm just saying that we've met with them. I've talked to them. Sonia's talked to them. Javier's talked to them. So I just don't understand who's giving you that information.
I didn't say that. Well, what I did say, I said I have 3 questions to ask.
Yeah, and those are the
So
answers.
the 3 questions again was the environmental as
as far as the environmental
I think an engineer's
impact.
going to know.
I'm sorry, Madam Mayor.
This I could answer because I run the meeting. So I think you're trying to ask questions. We have an engineer here that deals with that. We have a planner that deals with that. So those are the professionals. I don't think that you're the engineer or the planner that would actually
I didn't
know
say
that.
I'm
And
not.
so
I didn't say that.
If he's working on that project, you think that he's going to not follow the process correctly because he's an engineer, so he should know what the process would be. That's why he did this mini presentation to show about the structure and explain the process to us because he's the expert, not us.
Madam Mayor, I just
Or
asked
you.
for 3 simple questions. I'm not here to negate you or to debate you. Okay? When I asked you the question, you carried that question to Sonia. I'm asking Sonia for these questions,
Well, I
and
run
then
the
you
meeting.
interjected.
I run
and
the
then
meeting.
now
I'm the one that runs the meeting, whether you like that I run it or not.
I didn't say that.
It's,
Okay.
it's irrelevant. So
I didn't say that.
thank you.
I had
Your
3 questions. You haven't
questions
answered.
were
You haven't answered the questions
And
yet.
if you want to meet with Javier, you can ask him more questions later on. So thank you for your time. Do we have
So just like
Cynthia?
that.
That's yeah.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You haven't answered my questions yet.
I already did. That's it. We're not here for debate. Go ahead, Cynthia. You're next. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor and board members.
We don't need a scene, Fernando. Okay, can you please control yourself and not, I know you're very upset. You need to just relax.
Should have everybody just refrain from making any comments to each other that are not appropriate or just, okay. Yes, so I'll ask that please, to maintain the order.
Yes, thank you.
Hi, everybody. I'm Cynthia Sandoval. I run the Parlier Senior Center.
Berto, you asked for him to intervene. Now you're starting. So please stop. It needs to stop. Thank you. Yes, you asked for Chief to stop because of somebody else saying something. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm Cynthia Sandoval from the Parlier Senior Center. I don't come in behalf of my senior center today. I come in behalf of the Parlier Lions Club, which I am a member. I had a meeting yesterday with the Lions Club, and they are requesting if we can have board meetings at the senior center on Wednesdays, especially like the second Wednesday of every month, because that's when the board meetings are at. Most of these restaurants are closing up early and stuff like that, and they don't have accommodations for us to speak what we need to talk about. You know, we don't want the public to know. Well, it's a board meeting, and it's meetings too, so it's pertaining to the city and everything else. So we were just asking if we can have permission for that. And also, I had put a request in for the motorcycle run November 12th, I believe. And they're wanting me to request if we can use the senior center as the ending, but start at Veterans Park. Since it's like a day after Veterans Day. We're doing it November 12th, Veterans Day is November 11th. So they're wanting to start the motorcycle run at the Veterans Park. And they just wanted to know, like, are the restrooms open? Do they have electricity? Just in case they want to put music out, you know, to start. I don't know. That's just what they said. They just wanted to know. But if they could start there and then end at Parlier Senior Center, because that's where we give them lunch, and then we have prizes after. So that was just a request I was coming in for.
I think that would be a Bertha question. So you don't know if they.
I don't know if the calendar, so I'd have to check.
No, the one that, she submitted one already, right?
Yeah, I submitted it November 12th for November 12th.
I don't.
Yeah.
She could check for you.
So I'll
Yeah,
check tomorrow.
because I think I just barely turned it in like last week
And
sometime.
for the use of the senior center, then yeah, just submit the request for that too, for the
Okay.
days that you want.
Oh, that they, on one of the request forms.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And I wanted to tell you guys that will be held. Oh my God, I can't wait to take my seniors over there. It's so awesome. I was like, I'm gonna go get my hair done, I'm gonna get my nails done, get a pedicure. But I'm so excited for my seniors because she's right. There are a lot of seniors that don't have family. And I have a lot of those seniors that don't have family members anymore or don't have kids too, and they don't drive, you know, that they'll come and pick them up and they'll do all this stuff for them. When they told me they'll wash your clothes for me, I was like, sign me up. I'm not old, but I'm getting there. But it's awesome. I can't wait to take them over there. It's going to be a blast. And then they feed you too. Okay. Thank you guys. You guys have a good night.
All right, you're welcome. Any other public comments? Go ahead.
Hello, Antonio Cruz, 13669 Parlier Avenue. I have a question for I was wondering how long would it's gonna be monitored every day when we have the new bumps installed with the water pipe?
The meters?
Yeah, like it's gonna be monitored every.
Can you go over a little bit on the meters again, how it's monitored, Javier, real quick? Thank you.
You're probably talking about the future improvements when we upgrade our whole system. It's all automatic, so it just sends the meter readings that we can look at it live. It's all digitized. Yeah.
It texts like if it has other things in the water.
Oh no, you're talking about different.
I think he's talking about TCP maybe.
Oh, yeah.
He's wanting to know about the water.
Yeah. So our water is monitored right now. It's monitored every day. We have staff that takes samples, that monitors our wells every single day. So what's going to happen is once we finish this project, that same staff member is going to have a new procedure that monitors the TCP tanks and the TCP treatment and the water quality levels in those. And we submit all of these samples to the state weekly. So
that will make sure that you know that you're always receiving clean water.
Oh.
Okay.
And how long would it take to have install new ones later on in the future?
New TCP treatment tanks in the future?
Like
the meters.
Yeah, the meters or the water, tubes. I forgot how you said it.
The ones the connectors that you were talking about with the meters.
Oh, usually they last somewhere between 12 to 20 years, depending on the
Those last for a long time, but that project won't for the whole entire city. It's probably going to be
Probably about 3 years. After, when you consider logically
the whole
that-
project being completed, but because
completed.
it's the city's really big,
Mhm.
so if they start next year, it's not like going to get done within that year because they have to do all of them. And there's how many water meter connections do we have now? Because I know back then it was 3,000, so now we have
Probably about 4,000.
4,000
Mhm.
connections to work on. So that's a lot.
Yes.
That's why I say we got to give us a little bit of time.
Yeah, but it will be completed. It's just that it's going to take a little longer than what.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
All right, thank you, Antonio.
Mayor, I wanted to say something real quick. Going back to a couple of presentations ago, I got some information. There was a mention of the virtual and in-person focus groups. The virtual focus group is on October 25th from 9:30 to 11:30. And the in-person group is on November 15th from 9:30 to 11:30. I don't have the registration information, but if anybody's interested, they can get a hold of either Eusebio or me, and we can get that info to them.
Okay. All right, thank you,
Thanks.
Jeff. Thank you. Okay. All right, so let's
Okay.
move on to consent calendar. Do we have any item from the consent that would like to pull for discussion? No? So do we have a motion to approve item number 1? Motion. Motion by Diane, do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Sabrina. All those in favor?
Aye.
4 yes and 1 absent. All right, so we have regular business, Sonia?
Next item is a resolution to authorize the city manager to designate department heads to execute grant funding agreements. And this is actually an item that I asked Neil to put together, a resolution I asked him to put together.
Yeah, and this is just a housekeeping matter. Every time you receive a grant, you're required to execute a grant agreement, and you're required to execute lots and lots of documents just to implement the grant. Sometimes they're, accountings of what you spent. Sometimes they are invoices, and you're certifying that this is what you did. Various different things. And typically what will happen is you will normally authorize your city manager to sign the grant funding agreement and all documents necessary to carry the grant into effect. In the past, it has been common practice for her at a certain point to subdelegate that authority to somebody else, typically the finance director who is dealing with the actual accounting of the information that they're wanting. And she tried to do that with respect to one of these grants, which I think was a CDBG grant.
Yes.
And they rejected that, and they insisted that it be included in the actual resolution granting the authority. So what you have before you is simply a blanket authorization to your city manager with respect to all grants as to which she is the authorized signing person to be able to delegate that authority to the finance director or any other department head who is particularly affected by that grant. You might get a grant, for example, to do DUI checkpoints, and she might delegate that authority to the chief of police.
And I actually have recently delegated a couple grants to the chief, which he turned around and signed the grant agreement just recently. And so and I've done that many times, and so I just need this resolution because CDBG does require something.
It's just a matter of ease of administration of the grant, and it really, as long as you've got a city employee that's signing for you, and they're at the
I think it's a good
department head
idea
level,
that was brought up, because I know before it always just went to Sonia all the time, everything from every department. You have some grants, which is the mattress grant that we have too, for Public Works. Then you have the cops hiring grant, you have the tobacco one, and so there's a lot of them for PD. So if that would only make sense for the chief to be able to manage that because it's his department.
Right, so that's what this resolution does. It authorizes her to delegate that authority to the appropriate department head.
Because I think what you found yourself is going back and forth, right? Getting the information from chief and then.
It was terrible,
yes.
And it's cumbersome.
Yeah. Okay, so anybody have any questions?
So this is just in order to not delay any reports being submitted.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah, like we work as a team, a lot of the time. So when she's out, I need to take over, and I don't want to wait. I want to get it off my desk. So
I agree.
How many members are in that team? In the finance team?
It would only be
Well,
Ellie
if
or
she
I.
delegates
no
it,
one
it's
else
gotta
on the
be to
finance
the
would
department
But who else
head.
is working in the finance team? You have, what's her name?
And we don't mention any names. You mean how many staff I have?
Yes. Helping you with your finance. Can I have the names, please, for the record?
I don't think we do names.
There's none?
No.
Nobody?
We don't.
Just Ellie by herself?
No,
You cannot.
we can't mention names.
Okay,
in
but
the meeting.
how many are there? 3, 4? How many? 1, 2? Now, let me ask this question. Huh?
She's counting them.
Okay,
Hold
that's
on.
okay. Count them. That's okay. No, I'm fine. Thank you. I talk like that because I'm there from one ear.
I think I have like 8.
8 of you
Yeah.
guys help in the finance working with you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, 8. Thank you.
But I think the 8 is not grants, right? That's where we need the clarification, because I think she's alluding to that all 8 work with you on grants. And this is
No.
specifically for grants,
No,
right? This is not,
I have 4 in the utilities, you know.
so that's why
We
it's
have-
not 8.
No.
Okay, go ahead. 4 in the utility and what?
Just a
Huh?
signature.
I know, I don't think she understands.
I mean, finance does everything. Everything comes through finance, utilities, you know, the grants.
Because you were doing the water and somebody was helping you with the budget or something like that, remember?
I get help from all my team, like keep them busy. I have a lot of, everything comes through finance. Like, you know, so it's a lot of work. So yeah, I, you know, delegate.
Too much work for one person, I see.
Well,
that.
I delegate and I oversee everything. So yeah, they all help me with. I have people cross training. If we lose one person or that person's sick, well, what are we gonna do? So I have another person stepping in
I
to
don't
cross train.
understand what this is going, because it has nothing to do with your staff. This has to do with you signing if it's required for you to sign for your department.
Yeah, I'm the
This
only
has to
one who
do with
signs.
either chief signing if it has to do with his department. This has to do with somebody at the Public Works, which would be Javier, to sign for his department. It wouldn't be staff signing. So this is where she's misunderstanding, and I don't
Helpful for
I
me.
don't understand.
Sub-delegation
Yeah,
specifically has to be to a department
And head, yeah, that's where I don't understand what, it's irrelevant how many people work under the chief, how many people work under Ellie, how many people work under Javier. This has to do with the head departments.
Which is good because Sonia said it takes pressure off of her, right, Sonia?
Yes, it does.
No biggie.
Thank you. I don't
Okay,
even know
thank
why
you.
we're even having this debate. So do we have any other questions from the public? No? Okay, so do we have a motion to approve resolution number 2022-54? Sabrina motion. Do I have a second? Diane second. All those in favor? Can you roll call, please? Yes.
Councilwoman Maldonado?
Yes.
Councilwoman Solorio?
No.
Councilwoman Rodriguez?
Okay. Motion carries, 3 yes and 1 absent and 1 no.
Okay.
Go ahead.
The next item is for approval for the city manager and assistant city manager to attend the League of Cities annual city managers conference. So in the staff report, you'll see that I did put together a budget. So the conference is in Southern California, and it would be for Bertha and I to attend.
I think it's great that you guys are going, and especially Bertha, since this is our first year being an assistant city manager. So I think it's really, really good. And for you too, Sonia, because, this will be your first time as well. So it's important for you guys to go and get all the information needed to be able to, all the tools necessary to be able to run the city, a lot better. So, I mean, we're doing a fantastic job, but more is always good to know more.
Yeah, I'm glad you guys are going. It's more professional development. Get educated on doing your job even better. And I saw some of the other ones that were also sent. Our code enforcement, I was like, finally. But no, this is, I'm glad you guys are going.
Just since you brought up code enforcement, he is very proactive in taking classes, and as much as he says, I'll keep asking until you tell me no. So
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
That's a good idea. That's good.
So anybody from the public? No? All right, do we have a motion to approve?
Motion.
Sabrina and Diane. Diane. And that's four
Okay.
yes?
Yes.
Thank you. Next item is approval for the city manager contract professional services to update the website. As you know, our website is very old. We are not able to utilize the website the way that we need to. Not able to we're not able to attach certain links on there. We're not able to search anything. I think you all know our website needs to be updated.
It needs a lot of help, yes.
So,
I think that it's a good thing. I don't think we have any questions. Do you, Sabrina?
With the website, only because I like to pay online my water bill. It changed systems, and I know we approved that change of systems, but I had to re-register and get a new part of it, and I think, I was kind of thrown off one time.
The website we have now, I know Allie sent it to me when we changed over the system, and we couldn't link it, so it's not even on there. So you can't even go to our website to find the link to pay the water bill.
Okay.
You just can't.
Couldn't do it.
our website can't hold that link.
It's because it needs a lot of help.
It needs to
When
be
was the last time
upgraded.
the website was updated or anything?
2014?
It was when Israel was here.
Yeah, it was about 2014.
So when he was here, he did try something, but it was not.
I think we got it
was like a
for
free
free.
one.
It was a free one through EDC.
Through EDC. It changes all the time, yeah.
I've looked, Sonia and I have looked at some, and they are just so much nicer, so much easier to use.
User-friendly.
User-friendly.
Yeah.
So that's what we were talking about, and we're looking at.
Off topic, I love the fact that we have the kiosks. Now, I'm starting to see more people using that, so that's great. I'm glad that it was brought in because you do get a long line here sometimes, and that helps.
Well, I'm here till late, as you all know, and I see people coming up and using it.
So that's good.
A lot of people do.
And it's in Spanish as well, so that's a good thing too. So,
fee
so
on
then
that,
do
huh?
we have a motion to approve that?
Motion.
Motion from Diane?
Second.
I mean, Sabrina. All right, so Sabrina and Kathy. All those in favor?
Aye.
No, Kathy, yeah. Okay. That's 4 yes, and the last,
That's it.
we have public comments for closed session.
And all you have in your closed session is one item of public employment.
Okay. All righty. So that will be it until we get out. Hopefully it doesn't take too long.
Oh, great.
All right, so I guess we didn't have anything for closed session, so now meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.